So what is a land control board? So when you talk of land control board or land oversight authority, and in terms of its primary responsibility is to regulate and monitor the transaction, mainly concerning agricultural land. So essentially, every time you're buying an agricultural land, or you're doing a subdivision, or you're doing a transfer or change of particulars, you have to get a consent from the LCB. So basically, to get this consent, the first thing you need to do is to do an application to the board, and sometimes these boards meet regularly, maybe once in a month, depending with the county offices and where the land is located. So you might find there are boards that meets twice a month. So and there is a schedule of the meetings, that is when they are happening outside the offices. They have outlined the days and dates, maybe when they are meeting. So basically, you need to do that application. That is an application for the consent. And be careful when you're doing this application. Make sure that you do a payment to the Ministry of Land, that is a cashier in that office, and get a receipt and a copy of the receipt. A copy is you'll have to attach a copy to the form of application, and also make sure that you do an application. There are both 7 days to the meeting of the board, or 10 days to the meeting of the board. So you have to know well the stipulated times that you're supposed to do an application. This is for you to be listed among the people who will appear before the board within the time they are meeting. And when you're meeting when you are coming to the board during that day, your name will be called from the list that have stipulated all the people who have made application to come and see the board at that time. So you make your case to the board, and the board has the authority either to accept or to deny you. So the consent, they can give you the consent or deny you the consent. But if they deny the consent, they'll give you the reasons why they have denied you the consent, and you can go rectify, then come back with rectified information that needs to be done. So basically, there is what is called a special board, and a special board mostly the fee is higher than the actual cost of the board. That mostly the regular board you'll find is around 1,000 or plus, or 1,000 or two, depending with where you're doing your land is located, or the county in which your land is located. So the special board, when it comes to the special board, this is where you ought to be very, very, very careful. And I insist, you ought to be very, very careful, because the reason why the cost is higher is because for the board to sit, they are paid allowances. So, and these amounts that maybe you'll be paying will also be given to them as allowances. And most people make a mistake of just making the payment of the amount that ought to be paid, and they don't follow up in terms of does the board sit? You don't appear even to the board. Did it sit? So there is no minute in terms of your transaction. There is no minute in terms of your consent. So your consent, yes, was given, and most probably it was backdated to a specific date that the board had set. So, and you'll note, if those minutes were done an audit in terms of if any issue arises concerning that land that you're buying, or you're selling, if there is an audit that is done in terms of the consent on the minutes of the consent board, you will not appear into those backdated minutes, and that now can be a ground to validate the transaction that was done, and even validate the consent that was given for that transaction. So be very careful in terms of the special board. And when you're making that payment for the special board, make sure you also get a receipt of it from the ministry, or that is the cashier, the ministry cashier in that office. So be very careful, because this one can make you lose all what you've invested. And now sometimes you'll find that the owner raises issues with the land, and puts a caveat on the land, and now eventually the title might be declared that it was acquired irregularly, and that means it's either, yes, the owner or the seller can recover their money through a civil case because of fraud, or even go for get an order on in terms of fraud in the transaction. So be very careful as you transact in terms of land, and follow the due process in terms of transaction, and that's what will save you and your investment as time goes by, because if other things come up, you are able to show that the due process was followed to the acquiring of that land.